MakingStarWars.net.
Hey, YouTube.com. I'm Jason Ward from MakingStarWars.net. How's it going, Rob? Mr. Blockbuster?
Still living it. Well, you know, rent has gone up, my friend.
Yeah.
But there's still 1,000 abandoned Blockbusters around the country. So if you find one, you can just set up shop. Put some old VHS tapes in there. People come and rent them. You know, like it's okay.
Yeah, that place that people go and they like stay there overnight. You know, that Airbnb version of it. I don't get it. I never wanted to sleep in a Blockbuster, or that YouTube trend of like staying in Target overnight and getting arrested. I don't get that one either. I don't want to be in Target during the day. Why would I want to be there overnight? But
there was a whole wave of books when we were kids about kids that would stay in a museum overnight or some shit like that, right? And
sure.
I kept thinking to myself, like, why doesn't anyone ever stay at a Chuck E. Cheese so I can eat the fucking pizza dough? Like, I just want to eat
the
pizza
dough.
Yeah. How much pizza dough could I eat before I vomit? But who cares? It's Chuck E. Cheese. You can vomit on one side of the Chuck E. Cheese, go back, eat some more pizza dough.
I like how you go right to the pizza. You don't go to the do these things come to life at night, like conclusion.
No, I could. In my mind, they're always alive, bro. Like, I'm an imaginative kid. He could be alive. Ah, you're doing the thing. Ha ha. Pizza. I can't imagine food. It's okay. I just get hungry.
See, Eric Denzel, we met at a Target, and I'm like, see, that's why I'm going. That's why I don't go there anymore. That's why I try to stay out of Targets. No, that was actually like pretty surreal. He was listening to the podcast, and then we're like talking on the aisle over, and he's like, "What the fuck? What is that? This doesn't make any sense. Are you that guy?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm that guy. Are you that guy? Are you my imagined audience?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm all one of you." And he's like, "Yeah."
We're both here for the Ducktales figures, right? That's where I was at Target when I was listening to you.
Ducktales
the day
figures.
People don't know. So when the Ducktales figures for the 2017 cartoon showed up at Target, I ran out, right? And because I just wanted to buy them in a store. Toys R Us is gone. And I had your show on the pod. I had your show on my ear. I got the little wireless on. I got my Starbucks, right? I go down there, and they're all there. And I forgot to get a fucking cart. I was like, oh, shit. And so, because I'm a fucking nerd, a 40-year-old nerd, I start running through the fucking aisles. I'm spilling coffee everywhere, you know? And I get the cart, put the thing in there. Because I come back, there's guys having to clean up my coffee. You know? And you're in there talking about Earl of Sandwich and shit, you know? And that's why I'll never forget the Earl of Sandwich conversation. And then I bought every fucking thing they had. The money bin, the Scrooge. They even had these little like rando like coin cases with like little figures, but there was like figures in there you couldn't get, like Darkwing Duck. And I'm like seeing through to see which ones were what, so I got them all. Got them all. Bought everything.
George Lucas has a lot of the original Huey, Dewey, and Louie art from the old Scrooge comics and all that jazz.
Carl Barks stuff, right?
Yeah, he's a big collector of that. I imagine we're going to see that stuff at that Lucasfilm Museum. What is it? Narrative Art Museum of Narrative something. But yeah.
I know this. If I did get to hang out with Lucas ever, I would probably only talk to him about the Ducks and Uncle Scrooge and Carl Barks comics. Like that's how I would engage him. That's my in. Yeah, that's your in. Mine is my
friends kind of say I'm pretty much the top tech guy in amongst our crew. And so I know a thing or two about tech. And he'd be like
NBT.
He'd be like, I'm a kind of a tech guy myself.
Kind of a tech guy. It's a little bit of a Sammy Davis Jr. kind of a tech guy, right? When he does it, right? Like,
he kind of it's a little bit of.
I just saw what was on CBS.
You know, he kind of has a little thing going sometimes. But and this isn't a call out on anybody. This is just the best example of all time of not being able to please everyone, no matter what. We got Saber Smith saying, loving the long streams, keep up the good work. We got Kyle saying, hey, I love the show, but is there any way you can just shorten the runtime? Not, yeah. See,
I like
just
how Kyle's
moving
wearing a
the-
tinfoil hat in his icon too.
He belongs on our UFO show. Well, he's on the listening to the wrong ones. He's like, if it was UFOs for 2 hours, yeah.
Right.
I'm
Well, fair
in.
point. Either way, I would say this, folks, for the people who think the show run too long, is you're probably right. But some of our best ideas come around the 2 hour mark, like some of our best conversations. And so what happens there is if you miss that, if you think we're never going to remember it, that stuff usually filters back in the next day in the first hour. You know, like it's really important. So if you can't make it the second hour, you'll get it later. Don't stress. Just leave the video running. Like that's all I ask.
Do that. Yeah.
Love
and
of
like
God.
Dell says, deploy the likes and tickle that bell. So do that, dummies. Is it does it make sense to insult them? I don't know. I watch YouTube sometimes and I watch like the really successful ones, and I feel like they're kind of getting like the audiences are getting nagged a bit, you know? Like they ask like a question that I give them like $20 and then they're just like, nah. And I'm like, and then they just keep doing it. So I'm like, do I just need to start going like, hey, stupid, you're in a cult.
You literally call one of our people dummy.
Yeah, what's his name? His name is Dummy.
That's what my dad said about me. It is. My name's so stupid. I was shocked he didn't change my name to Stupid on the birth certificate when he adopted me. I'm like, you had your chance. Like, that was your moment. You could have done it.
Yeah.
2 O's.
I was like the dog's name and the jerk of shithead. That's a pretty good one. Lego fan 2001 says, do you know if any other prequel Clone Wars characters are showing up in Kenobi outside Bell already confirmed characters? No. As far as I know, if there is anything like that at all, I'm gonna call them Easter eggs. As opposed, and I don't know what the line is for fans about like what's an Easter egg and like what's an appearance. Like once again, I'm not gonna die on a hill saying something's wrong or right. Just saying like Forlom was a story yesterday. I don't have any reason to think that Star Wars Newsnet would lie. I don't think that. So I have to assume Forlom is in the movie or in the series. But knowing what I think I know, I don't see how he has any room to do anything. So I think like in that instance, it's just a background character, probably.
Jason.
Yeah. Yeah, Filoni?
Paycheck wants us to call it DLC Plus.
DLC Plus. DLC Plus Max.
And walkout. Disney walkout. Hashtag Disney walkout.
Yeah, so anyways, when it comes to like anything of like, I don't want to go out and say like definitely not, because like for all I know, like Orn Frita is like buying a burrito in the background in one shot, you know what I mean? And like I have no idea, and nobody
he
would.
needs to be buying that Frito taco at Taco Bell for a good tie-in. Free taco, Frito. There's something there, man.
Orn Free Taco, Donna, it's all connected. But yeah, in terms of like significance, gonna say no. Gonna say that pretty much everything's out there, I think.
You remember things, so you refresh my. By the way, if you're wondering what I'm doing, folks, I have to work. That's why I'm not looking at the camera the whole time. How many people said Maz Kanata was supposed to be in the Boba Fett series? Like, because I remember like that kept coming up, and I was like, where does this come from? Where is this? And I gotta wonder, is this like that? You know, like it's gonna happen. Kanata's gonna be.
And then I saw the sets from Andor, and there's like a gray looking castle-y kind of place on the interiors, and I'm like, well, I wonder some wires got confused. It's really, I really don't really buy into this concept that wires are getting crossed between productions, though. I was open to that.
Andor's like out in the UK though. Like, how could that be? And that looked more like Imperial stronghold shit. That didn't look anything like when we saw those photos. Remember they're out there in the tanks, little Kenner tanks and shit.
Yeah,
like,
this was more of like a like castle, like look like Maz Kanata's stuff. Very medieval looking place in Andor. Not the ones that were leaked and like seen publicly. But
so I love castles, dude, in Star Wars.
But I said that, and then it was sometimes taken as, oh, Jason's saying no, it's in Andor, and I'm not saying that Maz is in Andor or anything like that. But it would be hilarious. It will be hilarious though if we see Forlom showing up in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show when he didn't show up in Boba Fett. That makes me laugh. Because I mean, Forlom should have been honestly for a minute, I thought that was gonna be the protocol droid. I thought it was gonna be such a badass version of Jabba that Forlom would be the protocol. You see what I'm saying? Like Forlom would be translating and breaking
I feel
your
like
fingers.
anybody but the people who made that developed that show, not made it because we couldn't make shit, right? Like if we had to actually put together a production, we're not. But in terms of just writing down, almost anyone could have come up with something more interesting than fucking Vespers and Rancor that does jack shit and battle droids that just stand there and people continually shoot the shields, for 15 minutes.
Man, the more I look back on that show, dude, the more I'm like, you know what? They had an idea for how Boba existed in the desert, and it was clearly going to be a Mando episode. Then they moved that one over, made a good Mando episode that was Boba Fett centric, made that into its own show, and then they just started filling in the gap. They had this one plot point from that could have been in Mando season 3, and then they brought that over. And then they just filled in the rest. It's methodologically looking at it from that angle, that makes the most sense. And it was a mistake. I mean, but anyways, to go back to Lego fans' question, I really don't think so. Throughout the years, I had heard various things about characters who would be involved. And by the end of it, those characters were all gone, not a part of the story anymore. And we end up with I think though a tight story, so not really gonna complain about that or whatever. Hey James, how's it going? And thank you to James
the missed opportunity
and Dell for being channel members. Yeah,
congratulations. The missed opportunity here, and there is none so far because we haven't seen the series, so I can't say that, but just from fan speculation, possibilities, things missing from the Phantom Menace, because I look at Kenobi and I just see this being the kind of thing people thought of when they first heard the prequels, right? This is immediately kind of what they go to, the battle between a Vader and Kenobi, right?
Yeah.
Like a failed Kenobi, right? Even though we know that it's 2 movies away, that's what everyone's thinking about. It's just doing something with that Aura Singh character shows up in the fucking 2 set that was all the rage in 1999. That's the one I would fucking do, I don't care. It should be shit aliens, it could be fucking whatever old, I don't care.
Dude, with the way that they spoke about Aura Singh at that time, and even Lucas a couple of times when asked about her and stuff, I think she was going to be the bounty hunter in the opening of Attack of the Clones. And then Lucas was like, wouldn't it be fun if she was a changeling thing? And then they just decided to make it something else. I kind of think that Zam Wessel may have came out of that concept, and
it's a shame.
Yeah, it was a shame. But I did like hearing that she was killed in Solo: A Star Wars Story. Deep cut on that part at that point in time, but I appreciated it. Oh, Joel, you missed
the story.
You missed the part where Princess Leia is a clone. You missed that part. Dan says, "How can 4LOM be in Kenobi but not Book of Boba?" Right? I mean, that is if that pans out, that's pretty funny. But I also think most likely he's probably just hanging out in the Spice Den or on that Hong Kong Reno planet, Dayu, and he's probably just in the background or something. That's just a guess.
Rigging pachinko machines and shit because he can rig the stats.
Yeah, it's not going to be big. I know. I could guarantee you that it's not going to be significant or important, as far as I know. Taco Donna is where it's at, says Dale. I know, man. They definitely have an opportunity to use Ma's pre-sequel trilogy as sort of a hub of information and stuff. So I could see them doing it.
Never should have made her CGI. It'd be easier to pull off.
Yeah.
Flipper, just go animatronic. No one will care. Just telling you, dude, just do it.
Yeah. I mean, her being so mocap heavy though in those movies, and them having that model already made. I wonder if it's practical for live action television, or if that makes it impractical, or is it just not?
I'd literally make a puppet animatronic version like they did with the Ugnaught. Like in the Trandoshans and everything else. Like I would just go that way and like screw it.
Yeah. It was sort of weird that they went that way with her. Because the on-set version model that they used looks really good. But yeah, at that point when you're pulling all of the whole marketing's all practical effects, and you got Baba Joe walking down the street looking pretty rad and stuff like that, it is a little bit like, I went to the theater last night and I watched Labyrinth in the theater, and I was like, as I was watching it, a couple of things stood out to me. The ADR really weird in the opening of that movie. But and it's kind of weird that it's like the forgotten Lucasfilm movie, because I'm guessing that if they just Lucas gave it back to the Henson Company. Like,
well,
right?
It was Henson. No, Henson. It was a Henson production. I think
it's a Lucasfilm Limited. It says Lucasfilm Limited.
He couldn't get money after the Dark Crystal. I guess Lucas was the only one who put the money up.
I see.
Because it like sort of ended Henson's directing career after he bombed.
Well, that and dying like a short few years later, I think he would have been back, don't you? If he hadn't died, I think he would have directed more.
The Muppet Christmas Carol, most likely, but in terms of another Labyrinth like Dark Crystal film, no. He was out of that game. I mean, he was trying to sell it to Disney for a while too. Like that deal is extensively covered in that Henson book, by the way, and to an extent in the Disney War book as well.
Yeah. Yeah. People got partied. Nolan says, what keeps Rob up at night? What is in Taco Bell ground beef? How do my parents wrestle naked? And why don't they let me watch? So we'll take this one at a time. Rob, what keeps you up at night?
I go to bed early. So I go to bed between 8 and 9. So not much. I go right to sleep.
The thing about Rob is when he watches the news, that bad news, he feeds off of it. Just puts him right to sleep like a little baby.
It is true though. Like when I would go traveling, like the wife would learn, because I used to go to conventions and stuff a lot, and then she started traveling with me when we'd actually, I don't know, we started doing some traveling before COVID hit, and she learned that anytime I get to a hotel, I just immediately find murder porn, like the murder porn channel, like, and I just leave that on a loop. Like just whatever the weird murders. I don't know why I don't watch it ever, but on the road I have to.
like when MSNBC like stops doing their version of news and just starts showing like, murder in the wilderness.
It's like someone murdered their aunt because like they borrowed $100 they didn't want to fucking like pay back and like shit like that. You're like, what? It confirms all my fears about people and how I trust nobody. I borrow no money. I take no money. I don't do any deals.
Right.
Like
no secret handshakes.
No. Hey Rob, let's meet up at 2 a.m. Nope. No, I'm in bed between 8 and 9.
Come on, Rob. We've been talking on Craigslist for 15 minutes. Let's meet up at night. What do you say?
I'm not gonna say who it was, but I had a friend, right, that I was fairly close with. And
Jerry.
Last
His
time
name
I
was Jerry.
LA,
it was Jerry.
Don't say that because I know a Jerry. He'll think that's him. It's not. But last time I was in LA, they were like, hey, want to meet up? I'm like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. Sure, why not? And they're like, hey, I'm at this like tiki lounge, I'm like, there's no fucking way I'm taking an Uber, $100 round trip to go meet somebody at midnight at a tiki lounge in LA. I gotta explain this to my wife. It's never gonna fucking happen. Staying right here, playing Symphony of the Night on my PSP, I'm still getting my money out of that fucking system.
Hey, all the games are cracked now too. Pretty easy to get your money out of that
one. All the games on there. Yeah, I do. I have all the games on there.
Yeah. Okay, so what's in the Taco Bell ground beef? Probably mostly beef and some amount of legal cockroach parts. That's my guess.
No, don't. They could sue us. Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Apple core. No, it's water. It's mostly water.
Yeah, well, I eat at Taco Bell, so fuck off. All right, no, I'm kidding. I love it all. Really I love anything that makes me fat. Yeah,
Del Taco is pretty low quality, my friend.
You know where Del Taco really hits its stride is their like sauces are better. So
I was gonna say their sauces are worse.
no, the sauces
They have
are
the
better.
worst sauce.
Del Scorcho, it sounds like a Weezer song,
Nuts.
and it tastes just as delicious.
This is where we differ.
Uh-huh.
I
Oh, for
totally
sure.
have to disagree with this one.
Yeah. You one of these nights, someday, Rob, mark my words, we're gonna be out somewhere. We're gonna be doing something at some event. I'm gonna get you just the right amount of buzzed, and you're gonna be like, "This Del Taco is the best dinner I have ever had in my whole life." And
That
then
will never happen.
And then you'll have it another time, and you will totally be like, "This is crap." But that's how Del
Benito,
Taco
I've
works.
tried Del Taco regularly since 1981. It's never happened.
Yeah, you don't try it regular. You don't ever do it regular. You have
Every
to
couple,
be-
no, my wife and I, every couple years ago, you know what? Before COVID, something would happen, it'd be like a function, and so I go, all right, why don't we try the Del Taco? We'll get some. There was like a potluck, so I'll bring like 10. I'll bring the cheapest white trash food I can think of, and it's whichever line is less busy, the Taco Bell or Del Taco, because they're like across from the street from one another, and I try it, and I'm like, it's just not good, man.
No, drunk food, sober, isn't food. You're doing it wrong. I'm just saying. It's a little like taking a chaser without the shot. Just gonna throw that out
Taco
there.
Bell at least has those bean and cheese burritos, and combined with their sauce, still hold up. They're neither bean nor cheese nor sauce, but whatever it is, it works.
Yeah. No, it works. I'm not at war with Taco Bell. I don't know where this slander got started. Hey, oh no, look who it is. It's Dummy. Dummy's back.
Dummy.
All right,
What's up,
Dummy.
Dummy?
Dummy says, I saw George Lucas and Natalie Portman having lunch at an outdoor cafe on St. Mark's Place in New York City.
Shitty.
I almost said New York Shitty Walk. New York City, shortly before The Phantom Menace came out. Weird experience. Yeah, that's actually a pretty rad time too, to like run into them, like, you know, when they're making that kind of thing at that time. I'm still
They're
mad
just
about
talking shit about Jake the whole fucking time. They're
like,
real
just-
mean too.
They're like, guess what? They're all, we thought he was gonna hit like puberty at like 8 and then be like old enough for the rest of it, but he's just not. He's like a little kid.
Yeah.
They're like, what are we gonna do,
he's no
George?
Furlong.
He's like,
No,
I have this
Furlong.
idea. I'm just gonna pretend like it's some sociological research I did, and I thought it would be better if he was 8. Then I seem real smart. And Natalie was like, good job, George. You got this one. Does that make sense?
So let's get this straight. You seduce him.
All right,
None of-
Natalie.
none
What
of
if
that
he
conversation
asked you
sounds
if you were
right.
an angel? Would that be okay? Maybe you would fall for an 8-year-old.
He
if asked
sounds
you if
like
you were an
Chancellor Valorum. Don't leave me alone with him.
George Lucas's idea of romance is like a Will Smith joke without the punchline. It's like one of those, you know, you must be Jello because jam don't
Hey.
shake like that. It really is.
Hey,
though.
I like Hallmark precious moments. That's very romantic.
I like spaceships.
It's
Okay.
the eagerness in the after when he's a spaceship. You gotta look for it. It's subtle. Bud Bundy has the same look when he's trying to get laid, by the way. If you look at that Bud Bundy look.
It is the Bud Bundy. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
David Faustino might be George Lucas without the franchise behind him.
He's got the same hair in the 80s. Like around
same
that, when he was a
hair.
little kid, he was all militarized, but around the 89, 90, he had the kind of same hair, yeah.
Star Wars Santa says, we got the Maz Kanata thing from Star Wars only, saying that Takodana was going to be in the book of Boba Fett. Okay, so yeah, and I think they owned that. Like, oops, didn't pan out one, you know, which I appreciate. You know, what else can you do? Sometimes not
Look,
everything
even they
pans out.
said it and it didn't happen, so be careful, folks, about what you read.
Mhm. James said, on a slight note, is there any news on Willow? So like Willow was like at the towards the end of the production was hit with like a bunch of like storms and stuff, like bad weather that like destroyed sets, and the schedule got all kind of wackadoo. And then but I believe they finished I think a few weeks ago now. I think they might have finished just before Indiana Jones, I want to say. But a
Turns
part
out,
of me,
Warwick Davis conjured the son of Satan on set, and it really ran amok on and just mucked everything up.
muck
He
it
thought it
up.
was funny. It wasn't funny. It was atrocious. The son of Satan does not belong on set. It's more of an after-party thing. Stay in the green room.
Where's Satan today? Usually Satan's here. Where you at, Satan?
Out doing
But
Satan business.
no, yeah. So they were at the end there. They were filming on that castle with that tree, some kind of tree that's important there in this, and they were doing a lot of filming for that, which may have been Nockmaar Castle, but I'm not sure about that part exactly. But yeah, Willow was a weird one because people who worked on it that I've spoken to, they don't care because they don't care about the original movie. Like if it's part of if they grew up loving the movie, they'd probably be like, yeah, dude. And then that's when they use Finn Rizal's bones to see visions or something. But instead it's like, there's like, yeah, man, like the redhead's
But
there
Jason,
and the redhead, the blonde
that is
head.
their entire marketing campaign so far for this show. Though on Disney Plus, when Warwick is interviewing the actors, and they're like, I don't even know what fucking Willow is, man.
Yeah.
It's like Lord of the Rings. I don't know. Like, smart.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, because they know that if they seem like because they're like, how do you explain it? I mean, they are Dune compared to Star Wars, compared to Willow to Indiana Jones. I mean, Willow to Lord of the Rings. Like Willow's not trying to make adult men cry in theaters. That's not the aim of Willow. It's like fantasy with a little bit of comedy.
Well, Chris Claremont begs to differ.
Yeah, no, yeah, he did not get it. He really did not hit the mark on those novels. I wanted to like him. I actually read him twice. So I read 6 Willow books, trying to think it was just me. Do I just not get this? Does this just not work for me? So I read the first one. I'm just like, I don't know about this. Well, let's see where it goes. And then I finished the other 2, but the third one was like, oh, this is a long, hard slog. Then I thought, you know what? Maybe with all of the time in between books, the forward momentum of the trilogy was stalled. I'll read them all in a row. And I did again a couple years later. I disliked it even more the second time.
The last time I forced myself to finish something I fucking hated was Donkey Kong 64. So
Oh shit!
Just don't do it. It's not worth
man,
it.
you learned that lesson
collectathon.
early. You learned that lesson early. Yeah.
Well, I was at 20. I don't know if that's early, but
Well, I still haven't learned it. Adrian G says, are there any hints Leia might display Force sensitive abilities? So here is something to make people freak out about, but I don't think that they should. For the record, I don't think it's really going this way. But I heard that, I had that story yesterday, which didn't really kick off. People didn't really read it. That one was really, really weird because it's kind of a big one, really. But I guess when you get into the episode 5 of a story and the stuff isn't like, oh, does he have eyebrows? If it's not like those kind of questions, then but anyways, Kenobi's burned, and there was a source who was like, I think Leia might heal him. And I had another source who said he gets put into like a coffin kind of back to tank sort of device that they transport him in or something. I was like, okay. And so there was a time for a few days when we thought Leia may actually heal Kenobi, but I don't believe that is happening. And in fact, I think that would break canon, because she's like, Luke, you have a power I couldn't possibly. And then, except for that time I healed Ben with using my hands like I was a traveling evangelist or something. So I really don't think that it goes that way. But there was a moment like that where I was like, are we doing this? Please say we're not doing this. But I don't think we're doing that.
Kenobi goes, thank you for healing me. And if you ever find out you have a twin brother, don't let him know.
Don't kiss him.
Don't kiss him. I faulted. Right? It's my favorite part of Get Back when he goes, I faulted. Paul picks up his coffee and just walks to the other side. It's my fat fucking. I just thought you should know. Because we weren't smelling it.
Yeah.
It's so good.
All right, so Lego fan says, so the flashbacks won't feature characters like Padme, Mace Windu, Yoda, Ahsoka, Captain Rex. To the best of my knowledge, no. And there was one message I had, just one message. And let me see if I could. Okay, so I had one person who said, did you hear about Anakin Nightfall flashbacks? Which to that, I just said Nightfall flashbacks sounds like a country band. I'm Nightfall, and this is
No, Batman
Flashback.
Nightfall.
Call me Flash. But
yeah, it's when Batman you get the back broken, and then Gene Palm Valley turned into Asbats. It's all fun.
But yeah, I have like a source going, I think this happens, and that if there's these other flashbacks that are like about other things. And I have the vast majority of sources saying absolutely no. There's some impressionistic stuff of Anakin, that's probably for the earlier episodes. I hate you kind of stuff, and then there's the actual like them training, and that training thing is the main thing. No Padme, no Mace, no Yoda, no Ahsoka, no Rex, no Cody, no Chewbacca.
You know where I think this comes from? I've thought about this.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of the younger part of the Star Wars modern fan base are the people who pretty much grew up with the Clone Wars cartoons. So they're just looking to see what they grew up with in live action as much as possible. Hence the flashbacks, the armor, all that stuff that they've seen in animation, and they want to see that. And unfortunately, the people that are still in charge of everything are our age, and we're like, I don't watch it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, no, I think that's a pretty accurate depiction, and I'm even gonna say it's not necessarily that I didn't watch it for them. A lot of those people there were pretty were there when they were making it, were pretty like obsessed with it. But there kind of comes these periods of where they let sleeping dogs lie a little bit, and like Clone Wars got finished, and they really do understand that they need to leave shit alone before they bring it back. So I have a feeling that we will see a Clone Wars resurgence, and it may have to do with what you're saying of people that are like their age when Clone Wars, who were children when Clone Wars was out, who are now filmmakers. It may come about,
and people, and people who weren't there making the cartoons, who may have been, oh, we already did it, kind of thing, like ours. To them, it was like yesterday, but to a person growing up, a young filmmaker, they were like 10 when it came out,
right?
So it's it hits way differently. Like Batman '89 hits me way differently when Batman Begins comes out, right? Than it would have hit Michael Keaton or Tim Burton.
Also, I mean, think of it from a creative standpoint too. While Dave Filoni wasn't making Kenobi, he made over, I think, like 50 of those episodes. I think he might have directed that many. I actually am curious as to how many Dave actually directed, but he ran that show for over 100 episodes. He told those stories already. So if you're Dave Filoni, what kind of stories are you excited to make in 2022 in live action? And I'm going to guess that to some extent, he wants to continue on with the stories of the characters that he's fostered and created and brought to life, but also probably doesn't necessarily want to go back and retell stories he's already done. He's already done that. And usually
you need someone of Star Wars Meg's age to get these stories pushed forward. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not against any of it. I'm just saying that if you're wondering why, like, they're so hard pressed, they're not even hard pressed. I just don't think it's in their mind a lot of times, and there's not this aching desire to, I always wanted to see, like, the making of Lord of the Rings, when Peter Jackson said, I always wanted to see the other side of the Hobbiton, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know, that's what they want to see.
Well, I've seen concept art and word of mouth stuff from the earlier iterations of the Kenobi story. And while the Maul thing is complete fucking farce and not true in any way at all, it's not grounded in reality at all. There were other characters, classic characters that were in earlier versions of these stories that were brought in. And I mean, from the sounds of things, it didn't sound like they really brought too much to the table other than remember me kind of stuff. And so, just I don't know how to put it without sounding like an asshole, but we just really need to be happy with what we're getting. Sounds so even killed as opposed to the way it could have went, because I really think it could have went not Book of Boba bad, not that off the rails, but it could have went Book of Boba, this story just doesn't fucking matter. If what I think I know about the earlier versions is true, it just didn't matter at the end of the day. And I feel like what they've done now is something that does matter, like the name Jedi Dick Sensei, one of the best names on YouTube. So Lego Fan says, big missed opportunity if they don't have the deleted Padme Kenobi scene from Revenge of the Sith and Kenobi, to be honest. Yeah, no, they don't. I don't think I could be wrong about this, and we'll have to see after it comes out, like what we all think and how we all feel about it. But I think Padme not feeling her there actually helps to further the idea of the reality that it both dudes live in now. Like, this Padme is dead, and Padme is like a kind of a big cornerstone of like hope in the original prequel films. Like, she's the little Luke Skywalker in the first movie when you get down to it. And then but we have her removed from the equation, so we're dealing with that world where there is no Padme, and so that's why all she is she's brought up in the fight. And at least as far as I know, I mean, at the end of the day, might they do one of those slow crossfades with Padme in slow motion while Darth Vader is like getting put together? I doubt it, but I mean, I can't say for certain as I haven't seen it. But they didn't film anything to do that, and I never heard of them using any archival stuff, anything from the archives of Revenge of the Sith for this story.
On a side note, I was rewatching Kill Bill the other day.
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you, man, using anime as a vehicle for flashbacks.
Yeah, right? That's cool.
It's so fucking good, dude. Like, Star Wars could benefit from some of that, especially, like seriously, you could get a little bit more punk rock and be like, here's the fucking sick. I know it would throw people off, but I'm just telling you, man, like, that fucking mechanic works so well. Didn't take anyone out the fucking movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, if executed well and it's really good animation, like it works,
Yeah. Yeah. I wish the actual like Rebels was good looking enough that they could just do that with Rebel. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, you couldn't use the CG, the CG stuff. It'd have to be animated by some sick ass anime studio. Yeah, but yeah.
Right.
Because if that sequence in Kill Bill had been live action, it would look cheesy, like the Cowboy Bebop cart show and shit. Like, but when she's like standing with the sniper rifle and she's in the way it all works, like, it's something to it, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it works so well in that movie because it's like dealing with genre. Like, it's almost like the subtext of every single thing in that movie. So when that happens, you don't even question it. You're like, oh yeah, I see what you're doing. And no, that's what I'm saying is you have to do that in a Star Wars movie or a Star Wars series or movie or event that was really playing hard on that.
I feel like Boba Fett would have been the place to do it, being that his first fucking appearance wasn't a cartoon.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you had gotten Quentin Tarantino to helm this fucking thing via Kill Bill, like, there's a whole version of the Boba Fett show where people go, this fucking blew my mind, changed Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like who would have thought we could, especially since Favreau loves that holiday special, the idea of mixing 2D animated sequences with live action.
Yeah.
Like, could have just been like, I don't know. Like, all of what happened to Mace Windu could have been animated flashbacks until you finally see him in live action.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like, think about it that way, folks. Like, especially when he's fallen, if a sick ass anime studio Production IG or Madhouse had animated him falling, right? And he's like, and he's like using rage, and like he's got the one hand, he pulls over and he hangs on a ship, and I mean all that cool shit. Like as an artist, I just get so excited thinking about it. Like so many fucking cool things you can still do with Star Wars. That's why I still tell my friends who go, I don't know what Star Wars. I'm like, the best Star Wars is still in front of you.
Yeah, it could be.
Like
it really could be.
It's not a world bereft of idea. Like there's so much there. Yeah.
Well, and after we have like technological innovations or just general changes in the times, like when it becomes 1990, you're not in the 90s yet, but you know how you hit that point where you were in the 90s now, and then there was that point when the 90s were over. But like when you have
what was that for you? When did you know you were in the 90s?
Well, never mind. Like once like hair metal was ready to die and Milli Vanilli pop was ready to die and all of that stuff, and you had like entertainment change, and I felt like everybody's core values were at least pretending to be a bit, different, a bit more alternative, if you will. So
for me, it was the Rodney King situation.
Yeah, that was about the same time.
2 and Rodney King, like right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was that. Like it clearly wasn't the 80s anymore.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Because you had like NWA and Rodney King, and you had the riots and like a punk rock explosion. For me, that's Huey Lewis is done. We're not going back to that. Like, and then we got to Fred Durst, and I realized, it's everybody's stupid. We live in a
Breakout's not happening. Breakout.
But where I was going with that is that once we hit those moments where like there's been significant changes in the way that movies are made, taste and stuff like that, that's always going to be a new opportunity for Star Wars to somewhat reinvent itself. And when it was under George Lucas, it was always going to be that Lucas flavor. But now I think Star Wars is more beholden to mainstream trends, which I don't love necessarily, but also what the fuck? I got enough Star Wars movies already. If everyone from here on out for the rest of my life sucks, I'm cool with the original 6 that I had, So everything's a bonus to me.
The problem with me is like every time I see a filmmaker in Hollywood talk now, like there's such an age that they're like, Blade Runner was a thing to change my life. Even to this day, like I still hear that. And I'm like, when am I going to get the person who's like Full Metal Alchemist was my fucking shit? You know what I mean? I need that filmmaker to step forward now, please.
Right.
I need that. I need that person to go, I grew up with Invader Zim and the fucking Clone Wars, and now I want to make a fucking Sith series, with some crazy fucking wild shit in there. Like I need that group of people. That because I won't say my generation is a problem in that it was always hard for me to convince my peers to fucking watch a cartoon. It was their kids that I would be able to finally talk to about anime and cartoons. Like my generation was still like, they would go see shit and then deny they ever saw it. I didn't see Batman Forever. Fuck you. I saw you outside the theater.
Oh yeah, I saw it. I just had a bad time.
What? You think all these videos just rent themselves?
Yeah, it's true. Ewan asks, have you ever considered releasing any Kenobi photos you might have, or is that too risky for your sources? So it usually goes like a couple of ways. The first thing is that it usually, I have found, when a source is willing to give me a photo, I'm not the only one they've given it to. And I hate that. Not because I'm greedy, but because like if I'm protecting like a source's photo with my life, and then they're giving it just to a bunch of randos who they trust, then that rando goes and gives it out. Then they look at me like, did you do it? And I didn't do it. And I don't want anything to do with that kind of stuff. So I usually try not to even get it. I want to see it like really, really, really well. But when it's a source that I do not want to spook, that I don't want to scare, that I don't want to offend, I would rather not have the photo. Does that, if I know,
you just sounded like to me right now?
What's that?
Sound like Cassian Andor trying to get that guy to save himself. He like won't
Yeah.
do it. His informant, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, now I gotta kill you because you're gonna get me killed, you fucking asshole.
Yeah. Well, no, I
Yeah.
mean, it's like I would rather my sources be able to trust me 1000% and not be afraid that I'm going to start sharing their stuff. So most of the time I don't even want it. It doesn't, I mean, but I'm weak. If they're like, here, I'll take it. Trust me, I'll fucking take it. But,
Right.
so yeah. So when it comes to most of that stuff, I look at that and go, interesting. And usually if it was something, for instance, like if it was offered to me and let's just say it was hard to understand, or there was a lot of angles to it, then I might go, yeah, let me take that. But if it's Obi-Wan Kenobi in a cave, honestly don't need it. Like once I see that, what am I gonna do? You know, he's laying on the cave. He's laying on a cave floor. What do you want me to say? You know, there's nothing more to do.
To be honest, I'm not that impressed with that set design.
Yeah.
I like everything I've seen so far. The cave shot, I'm like, could use a little Annie Leibovitz to this. Like it's a little like when you're waiting to get into the Pirates of the Caribbean line kind of thing. Like,
I do think lighting and how it's used in the shots is really going to matter there because it could look like one thing looks from one angle it could look like a cave, another angle it could look like a prefab Knott's Berry Farm line. I get it. I get it going on the fucking log ride.
So Knott's Berry Farm's a good app because you get those Knott's Berry Farm lines. What's that miner? The one with the slow train, where you're like, well, this was designed. This was designed in the 70s clearly and hasn't fucking changed ever.
Yeah, stalactites or stalagmites. I don't remember what it is, but anyways, yeah. So and then in terms of releasing that stuff, I did some pretty ballsy shit in the past with that. And but I don't want to give them any excuse, any legitimate reason to get my Twitter account suspended or whatever, So
yeah, because they own it.
Yeah, so I don't do it. I don't test those waters. I would rather just be, I would rather just do my thing as an entertainment journalist as opposed to a copyright infringer. And that's my take or that's my take. And
if you remember,
if
you remember back when before The Force Awakens came out, there was that the Star Wars artist, was it, I want to say Josh Hodges something. He had like a comic strip on StarWars.com, right? He had a cool little cartoony comic booky style, and he had seen the First Order troopers and just drew a drawing of one.
Yeah, it was the TIE fighter pilot, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, it didn't go so well for his. Yeah, he got in trouble.
For
that. Yeah, poor guy. You can't do that,
I have the photo that I believe I have the photo that he drew it from. I think I
could draw. And I'm like, don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways, so that's where it's like, releasing photos or whatever, like they'll just like strike you. If I put it on this video, they would strike the channel. You know what I mean? So it's not really worth it. It's and it is risky for sources. And I always try to be cognizant as well of sometimes when something comes to me, what if it, I'm just making this up. This has never happened, but let's just pretend like it could. You have this person on a computer. I'm tickety-tockety working for the Star Wars, making the Star Wars. And then they drop their pencil and go down to get it. And then Bob comes by and takes a picture of their screen. And then now they're in trouble for it or something like that. It's not their fault, but
that like exact reason was why when Favreau was talking about when he was working on Iron Man 1, he had to go down to the ranch. And it was that shot specifically where Iron Man's flying and like they have like that GoPro cam kind of over him and they added that like condensation hitting the camera. It's all digital, but they tried to make it look like there was really a camera up there. Yeah. They're working on the shot and they get to ILM on the ranch, right? They get to ILM and this dude is working on like one of those jungle shots for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Okay. And when they come around the bend, they had to like just like hug their monitor. And it wasn't just so much so guys couldn't see it. It's because you never know. Like if that dude, if that exact person had snapped his screen, that guy's in trouble. Not, they don't always know who took the snap.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, for sure.
Man.
Yeah, there was this entertainment journalist that was trying to get my info downstream from a mutual friend. And every time I'd have a scoop, he'd go out and he'd be like, "Oh, more people got fired today." Every time I had a scoop, he would say that. And it was like, boy, if he had been able to continue doing that, there wouldn't be anybody working there with as many people as got fired every time I put a scoop out.
Sure. You're just you're hollowing out the halls.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, it's your fault.
Oh yeah. It was never true. No one ever lost a job. Robert Sinclair says Maz will forever look like E.T.'s side piece in my book. Yeah, she does. She does look a little bit like if E.T. and the aliens from Fire in the Sky, had a kid.
You know something? I know it was a goof, but it wasn't like a goof deep in the background. The fact that ETs were literally in a pretty clear fucking shot in the Phantom Menace, Maz should have been a fucking ET. Like, let's just be honest. That would have been the fucking coolest thing, man.
They don't own Universal yet. Give them 6 months. And
God, wouldn't that have been cool? Like, that would have been the thing. Unite the clans. Unite them.
No, just wait until Universal has that one bad year and Disney buys them up. Then all of a sudden we got our ET Jedi is there.
If it weren't for that pesky Fast and the Furious franchise, I'd have owned their asses by now.
Pretty much. Eric Denton says Oz and Elves should do a crossover TV movie event for Peacock. Yeah, weren't they supposed to bring Elf back? I thought Elf was coming back.
NECA has the worldwide rights, and they're working on a new series with someone on that. Yeah.
Okay.
They're trying to get that back on the ground.
James George
but
Washington.
The guy who did the voice died, right? The puppeteer for Alf. Yeah, he's gone.
Oh, okay. So
yeah, he passed.
So Alf is just a property now, just going to be reinvented, maybe.
Yeah, but I think if they handed it to the guy who did Triumph, the dog, there's room there.
Oh, he's funny. James says, Gary Kurtz produced Labyrinth, didn't he? Or was that Dark Crystal? That was Dark Crystal.
Dark Crystal.
Yeah, it was Dark Crystal.
He got into director's jail after Return to Oz.
Yeah.
Or producer's jail, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
The making of Labyrinth was really covered well, like I said, in the Henson book and a bit in the Disney War book. There's an audio biography, but you can really get into like the starting of the Brian Froud drawings and how long he could never crack a story so much. It was always just in a way that Storyteller was like an anthology. There was all these different bits and pieces. You almost get the feeling that Labyrinth kind of should have been like an anthology series that took place in the Labyrinth. Because for me, the coolest scene in Labyrinth is just that matte painting with the maze behind them.
Yeah.
And like the infinite wonders of this crazy labyrinth in which there could have been whole villages in that maze that could have scaled up. Like if you had the right technology, parts of that labyrinth could have been whole cities that are carved into the wall kind of shit, I imagine if you thought that through, the problem is you had to have a beginning and middle end because of a movie. So he tried to follow the Oz formula where she's on Earth, right? And then something happens and then she's in there to get her brother. She's got to come back home. But was it a dream? I don't know. Like it was always a tough nut to crack. And I don't think it works entirely, but it's a fucking super imaginative film, right? Like it's fun to watch.
Yeah, there's kind of things about it too. Like when you watch it at home, you don't really see up as apparent as you do in a theatrical like screening that like her mom is an actress with David Bowie, and like they have that picture in the mirror, and there's never like a close up shot of it. There's no coverage of it, and it's like kind of obvious, when you watch the movie that you see all of these pieces of the story in her room. But that's like the one piece of the story where, and then at the end he's like, "Let me own you," and then you're like, was there some kind of affair here? You know what I mean? Like there's like whole like implied story with like the parents and shit, and then but the movie doesn't really deal with it. And then at the end, she's like accepting being an adult, becoming a woman. She's taking care of the little brother as she like should as a family member. She's putting her toys away to grow up. But then they're like, should you need us? And then they're just dancing at the end. You're like, you kind of make this point, and then you undo the point like 10 seconds later. And I don't hate it though, because on one hand, it's kind of right. Like, you do need to grow up. You can go back to your fantasy, and that's true. But it's really kind of confusing.
It's always tough when Jim Henson's telling everyone to grow up while he's fucking playing with Muppets that are urinating into ponds, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem with the film is it's trying to follow some kind of, I feel like this is where we hit the part of the 80s where they've tapped the Joseph Campbell shit to its fullest extent. Like, it goes no further.
Dude, at the very end of that movie, she's like, I have to go alone. They're all, why? And she's like, because that's how it's done.
Yeah.
They just
literally.
That's just how it's done, you know? Okay.
And that's when I was a kid, I didn't know the Joseph Campbell part. I didn't know about Joseph Campbell's role and all that until the Power Myth interviews with Bill Moyers.
Okay.
You know, when I was in high school, right?
Yeah.
And so they did the interviews, and then I got the transcript book in 97, 96, 97. I got mine in 97. That transcript changed my life, but it also made me go, oh, that explains Star Wars, and then I did my math. Labyrinth. Yeah, it peaks at Labyrinth.
Yeah.
So the Phantom Menace, with the time Lucas was doing interviews about the prequels, and he goes, it's more like Shakespeare and Othello, you know? And I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense because that Campbell shit's tapped out, right? So it should be more like Shakespeare, maybe some Kurosawa, bring that back in. And none of that shit's, you know, he's just back into the hero's journey and shit, you know? It's like, all right, you know, never look back, you know? I'm like, oh, are we doing this? Like, we don't have to. So it's a shame. Because there's just not much there. Like, the Campbell stuff is just, it's an observation. It's not an actual storytelling device. And people have sort of taken it to, like, here's a formula for making a story. I'm like, okay, until you watch The Thin Red Line or any fucking Terrence Malick or even a Tarantino movie, you're like, not really.
well, no, not every movie's a monomyth. Not every. That's right. At the end of the day, it's just not every movie is or every story follows a monomyth format, and it's a really, you know, simplified structure, but it's like something that you could use to to give structure to a bunch of good ideas. That's where I think George Lucas nailed it. Is he had a bunch of fun ideas and is able to hang it on that. But you have people who are like, okay, I'm going to start at the monomyth, and they don't have the ideas.
The way someone reached out to me, an artist reached out to me on Instagram the other day asking me about like how to arrive at some art styles that I kind of conjured up for myself. And I made him an MP3, and I should really do a video on it sometime. But like, my advice wasn't to draw an art style. It's really want to find. This sounds going to sound so corny, folks. Just bear with me. You got to find how you creatively think instinctively versus brute forcing an end result. So a brute forcing an end result would be, I am going to go read some comic books. I'm going to look at these comics, and then I will draw a comic. And I'm always looking at this comic, right? Or these comic books that inspire me to then create the thing that I think is supposed to resonate with that looks like a comic book. That's brute forcing, because you're constantly have to look back and check in, and you're looking and checking and you're looking. That isn't your inner voice.
Yeah.
Something needs to click with how you think and create to when you start drawing or writing or making something that you are then tapping into just how you think, how you feel. And these things that are part of you come out that really can't be reproduced by other people. They can look at it, but they can't instinctively create. I found that for myself. I didn't find that for myself until like a year and a half ago when I was working at Toys R Us at the end of Crash 4. And we were developing another project that was all about like blue sky development. And I wanted to get all my ideas into this game, this future game that they were doing out. And I was like, I got to beat everyone to the punch. So I started doing like a sort of a scrapbook technique, but I drew all my ideas out in a way that like, it's hard to describe drawings, right, to people because you got to imagine it. But just I produced stuff that people are like, where's this coming from? You know, like this is it's so much, but it was uniquely me. And from there, I have tried to continue that into all. That's why there's a change in about a year and a half ago. It just took me like 40 years to kind of arrive at how to do that. And since then, anytime I have to encounter a job or an offer that pulls me away from that, that's like, no, just follow the formula. Don't I want to do it. And I think Lucas, that Campbell stuff was when he found something that allowed him to get out all of his creative stuff. Like it just gave him a guidepost.
Yeah.
In a way, like, you know, and then he was able to just like, through this, I can funnel all these ideas out. But when he mentions the Campbell stuff, people then go, oh, so that's how you use it to do story structure. Like,
Yeah.
like not really, you know?
Yeah. No, you're right. And that monomyth structure isn't appropriate for all stories. It's just not.
Yeah.
But I mean, but you can pretty much identify elements of it in most successful stories still. It's weird.
Because that's the whole point of the Hero with 1,000 Faces, is that you're identifying patterns that are, it's to show that cultures are not unique unto themselves, that we have, you know, inherent similarities, you know, despite what racism or borders or anything else tells you, you know, that there's a commonality to the human experience is what it's trying to do through the lens of Western civilization, 1948, you know?
Yeah.
You know, well, you know, somewhat well-to-do intellectual white dude, you know, but sure, you know, like, you got woke, Rob.
When Santa says a guy, does he mean a child? I actually had a guy ask me the parents wrestle match question while I was Santa in a store. I hope a guy means like, you know, a 5-year-old or something. I wonder what Santa said. Santa said, "Shut up and go to bed." Dale Herdman said,
"Oh, I'll smother you with a pillow, kid." I know.
Yeah, poor Santa.
Santa hates me.
Dale says, "I don't want to watch my parents wrestle." Del Taco has the best chicken avocado burritos. Hey,
no avocado exists in a Del Taco. Whatever that ate.
Hey, they're the only fast food place where you can get chili cheese fries at 11 a.m. or 11 p.m. Max says, "Thanks. I'm getting tacos." Bye, Max. Eat those tacos, Max. Hey, Jim, how's it going? Rob is 100% right. I don't know about what, but must have been a time we agreed. Kidding. Robert St. Clair says, "Does the Kraft Dooku Road at the end of Attack of the Clones count as the first ever Star Wars Vespa, or is it more of a sand dude ski-doo? It doesn't go very fast, regardless. I think it's more of the first version of a Rascal in Star Wars. I thought
it was the old person version of Maul's thing, because Maul has that little cyclical bike, right?
Yeah.
Where the Aeronauts, when he goes over the hill, the Aeronauts made a crash sound when he goes over it.
I think Dooku drives that thing around Walmart, you know, buying Depends. Turn him to the dark side.
It's so Wizard of Oz with the witch when she's on the bike. You know?
Yeah.
I don't like the Wizard of Oz. I'm not a fan.
Not a fan?
No. My mom would be, when Wizard of Oz? I'm like, oh. And my mom would get so excited. That was her Star Wars when she was a kid. So I was like, we should get frozen yogurt. So she'd always get excited. So we get frozen yogurt. National City had this coconut. That was the only place that had coconut frozen yogurt. And then we'd go get the Kenobi, but that would excite me. But I'd have to, the price was that I'd have to sit through fucking the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. When I was in like kindergarten, I remember watching Wizard of Oz and being like, man, Dorothy's pretty hot, like Princess Leia. And that's why I watched
she's definitely pretty.
Yeah. That was why I was into it. But once
Lisa Bonet was
singing,
just as pretty. I could be watching the Cosby Show. Of course, now you know.
Well, that was why one of the reasons you watched the Cosby Show. You're like, what's Cockroach up to, and what's Lisa Bonet up to? Neil says,
Cockroach.
Yeah, Cockroach smoked weed. He was cool, way cooler than Thea. Neil,
he was the original Jazz, right?
He was the original Jazz. Yeah. Neil said, "How did you and Rob come to know one another? What mistakes should one avoid as to not end up living in Idaho?"
COVID. We can't leave now. We're trapped.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, here's the thing about where I live, because my friend goes, there's a lot of right wingers out there. I'm like, there is, but like, so long as we still have a police system, right, in this country that overwhelmingly subjugates minorities, we're always in a fascist. You know, it just depends on what degree you want to admit you're living in one kind of thing. So we moved out here because I live in my room. And even though I'm from San Diego, it makes no sense to pay for beach if I'm never gone. Yeah. So I just did the math across the country for places that had a market for my wife's kind of career stuff. to rent and buying a home. And there was like 3 places on the list, and we waited, and one of them was out of price range by the time we hit 2015, which was Fort Collins. Like that was already out of price range. So there was this like, there was Idaho, and then there was like, God, what was the other one? I can't remember what the other one was. But this is now out of range for most people. Like I told my wife, we're going to get in, like my parents got into San Diego like in 78, 77, you know, like, cause come 1980, 81, it's over, you know, like financially.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So that's Idaho. And then I think you and I just spoke on the internet for a long time. And then I started doing this show, and then I don't remember why. I was just like, hey, you want to come on? Or something like that, right?
Well, what happened is so like I didn't know about all the shit that happened to you, like when the COVID, because that all happened at the same time as the COVID shit, right? So like I was so like, hey, the world's gonna fucking. I didn't have my head down, you know. And then one day I realized you started streaming again, right? Because before then I used to reach out and go, oh, great show. So we'd have that kind of interaction, you know?
Yeah.
Fantastic. You can see me. I'm in the comments, or I was part of the Patreon. So I'd always comment on the Patreon thing. Like, man, this is great. Great conversation. Earl a sandwich. But I didn't actually say, hey, it was when you started streaming, I was like, hey, I sent you like an Instagram or Twitter. I was like, hey, it'd be fun to come on sometime. I don't know why. Because what happened was I had no one to talk to about Star Wars, and Jason's the only person I felt I could talk to about Star Wars and not have to get told what can't happen. Because anytime I talk to most fans of Star Wars, anytime I say, hey, what about this, what about that, they go, can't happen, won't ever work, you're stupid. Like it's like when you bring up Grogu in a mech suit. Yeah. That's like the reaction I get from every fucking. Meanwhile, when I talk to people who work on comics, who work on the books, who work on the films, they're always like, great ideas. You should come on. You know, if you did something other than drawing, you could be a part of this. Like drawing's the least important fucking interesting thing. If I could light, if I was a you know, like a screenwriter, if I was an editor, if I was any fucking job other than drawing, matter of fact, I had an opportunity to work on Star Wars once in 2006 or 7. I was at the Wizard World at the Staples Center. Right. And I did this, this little animated version of like, who's the blue Twilight Jedi chick? Like,
Ayla Secura.
Yeah. And so it's her, and I have her have she had her lightsaber up and she had her hand down, and I had her using, you know, like a Vader stops the fucking blaster with his hand. I had her doing that to blasters, and these clone troopers are around her. And it was like an animated look, but more like I don't know, like a more mature version. And these guys were looking at it. They kept staring at it. I'm like, what's up? What's up? And they're like, hey, I looked at the tag. It said Dark Horse, right? And they're like, you like Star Wars? I'm like, a little bit. And they go, could you draw like this, but in the Clone War style? Would you be willing to draw like in the actual cartoons? And for some reason, bro, I went, oh, hell no. I don't know why. I would have been happy to. But I still had this part of me where I was like, no, that's how I fucking draw. Yeah. And now, I mean, it's just funny, man. They were like, all right, well, too bad. I can still go, it's a shame. And then they left it and walked off, and I could have.
You dummy. Is your name Dummy? Is that you in the chat?
I don't know. Dummy brother? And I love the 2D. I love the 2D card. I don't know why I did. And the laugh I gave them, it was over. Like there was just no way I could come back from the laugh I gave them. Yeah. I don't know. Whatever.
So Devin Patel says, do you know how long on average each episode is? Yeah, they're about the 45 minutes. About that. For Kenobi. They all come in around there, as far as I heard. When I was talking about like what the shoots were and stuff like that, and knowing what the parameters of each shoot were, I am fairly confident that's going to be what these are. So expect 6 episodes at about 45 minutes, give or take, and you will not be disappointed. It would be really surprising if there ends up being one that's like an hour and 20 minutes. I do not believe that could happen with the parameters of the shoot. So if anybody thinks so, I think they're being very, very little too hopeful with the length. That's what she said. Dummy's back. Is Qui-Gon full Force ghost or just a voice? He's both. Is Leia aware of who Kenobi is? And what is the relationship on Luke? That is the $64,000 question. I think she thinks his name is Ben. I don't think she entirely knows for most of it what he is. And she may never know he's Obi-Wan Kenobi. She may just know he's Ben. But there's a chance he marches into battle to go fight Darth Vader, for instance, the first time without a lightsaber, if I'm understanding this correctly. And that he goes and does that, and she doesn't know. But it's also kind of hard to imagine on one hand that she eventually doesn't know, if that makes any sense. So I'm not sure if this is a story where she doesn't know for some time and then does find out, or what. But because I think she may go back home to Alderaan by the final episode, so she's not there for the final duel. And then when he does get into the first duel, she is escaping, and then I think that they end up saving him. They go back for him or something and save him. So my guess is it's going to be a little bit like she doesn't know. That said, I know I've been told, like, just again recently, that they film scenes where Leia is not impressed with Obi-Wan. And the first time she meets him in the second episode, she's like, he shows up covered in blood and guts and battle damaged and everything like that. And she's just like, what the fuck is this? You know what I mean? Like, it's not really the elite Republic commando that she expected to come down and save her, which I think is going to be a funny kind of thing with Leia throughout her life, is that every time she expects that swashbuckling hero who's the right hero, it's always the guy who's a little short for a stormtrooper or whatever. So I think that's kind of continuing that kind of idea. Yeah. Right. Don't kiss him. That's important.
Whoa,
Hey, Baymax. Are you still on vacation? You son of a bitch. Eric Denton says they don't care about Willow, rightfully so. Shut up, Eric.
Yeah.
Sound drunk. Go home.
Rightfully so. Or go to Del Taco. You might be just the right amount of drunk to appreciate it.
I'm gonna say getting a little drunk, a little Del Taco, a little bit of Willow. That's a party night for me.
You should update your Tinder.
Hey, the person who goes with that is the person I'm meant to be with. Junkbox says, I hope for a
Courtney Love.
Hey.
How great would that be? I know, hold on, you can finish this. How great would it be if you ended up with Courtney Love? Like, just think about that. That'd be so great.
You know, in my own way, I've ended up with Courtney Love several times throughout my life. There is an army of Courtneys, and I dated all of the ones who would date me back. And it's a bad idea, Kurt. It's a bad idea. Junkbox says, hope for a Mad Mardigan comeback somehow. Yeah, me too. That would be kind of rad if there was some way for that. And I'm curious how they may deal with that, you know, like I don't know.
Man, had I been in charge of this production, I would have done everything I could to get a Carl Urban to come in and play a Mad Mardigan type. You know, like I feel like he's that right kind of, mid 80s. His energy is, even though he's older, his energy is still Val Kilmer all the way. You know, like he can do goof and serious on a dime. I think he's the most underrated mainstream. I think he's the most underrated actor right now working. Is that Carl Urban, man? Yeah.
How is Val Kilmer's condition? Is he into a place where we could ever have him, like, through the movie magic, speaking on screen
with the voice thing, with the AI thing? Probably, yeah. Because
I mean, you know, it does seem possible. I never liked the idea that, like, he's like dead or whatever. But I've had a couple of random thoughts, because there's a little bit of context missing to the Willow story. And I'm like, what if they just do something where, like, Nelwyns live like 300 or 400 years? You know what I mean? Because, you know, the George Lucas, he's wild. He has the Ewoks doing that for a while. But like, what if Nelwyns don't live like a human? So what if we're like a whole generation or two removed from the original story, and like this is like offspring of them, but not like, you know what I'm saying? Like they could do a story like that with Willow if they want to, since it's so fairy tale like. But Mad Mardigan is Willow without him is sort of an interesting concept, and not necessarily in a good way all the time for me. Hey, it's Chris. How's it going, dude? And Sheev the Wise. I saw your video last night. Nolan says, I have a real Star Wars question. All your great scoops in Kenobi. It seems like Kenobi doesn't use his saber much until episode 4. Do we know if he uses it beforehand? And that's I am getting the impression that we don't have Kenobi running around with this lightsaber out.
It would give him away.
Like in the first episode, we have stuff about lightsabers where like he's telling Nari to go bury the lightsaber in the sand. The fight's lost. And then when we go to save Leia, I haven't, when he gets like into the spice den and he's fighting people, I think he uses the gun the whole time. So I don't think he has his weapons out or his lightsaber out. I don't think he uses it until we get to that final duel. So
yeah, but that makes sense. I know some people might, who don't think it through, will be like, well, when there's lightsabers, but
I didn't watch a Kenobi show the Nazi Kenobi use a lightsaber. That's what one of them's gonna say. But you will.
Why doesn't he use his lightsaber?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
So anyway. All right. Okay, so and then Santa says, Sheev. Lego fan says, what about
that's what I call my wife. Yeah. Right in the back. Sheev.
What about the campfire scene from Crystal Crisis? That flashback would fit Kenobi perfectly. Yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, I like it could, but I think it's just this new one. I mean, this is the only one I've ever heard about. Shogun Orda says, but most of Kill Bill had one smidge of cheesiness to it, which is why I think the anime part worked. The movie was a bit surreal, but the anime part fit right into it, in my own opinion. Yeah, in my humble opinion. I agree.
Star Wars has campiness in it, though.
Or in my opinion, it wasn't even humble. Jonathan says, thank goodness Dave Filoni has a say on things that could be in a project now. From the sound of it, from all the criticism the prequels received, you cannot argue the world building and lore introduced. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of like what I find weird and lovely about the prequels at the same time, is that he almost overdid it. He almost overdeveloped bringing in that world into something else if he was only going to make 3 movies. And in a weird way, we're like really lucky that he did that, because there is so much like growth there and so much to like play with and to expand Star Wars in these different ways. But when you look at like what the parameters of those 3 movies were, I think he kind of overdid it, but I appreciate it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Shogun says, I would say Akira is my shit. It feels like they're sniffing out the leakers that way. What? I don't think they're sniffing out any leakers. Neil Mohammed, are some of your sources just casual fans, or are all of them obsessed with the content? I'm wondering if it's possible that they might miss a less well-known character such as 4LOM. I'm going to throw it out there that all of these are possibilities. I have had sources before who our connection was music. We both like the same punk bands, or we both like the same whatever esoteric thing. And so and then, some of these people are like, yeah, I went to work at Pinewood because I like James Bond. I was wanted to work at Pinewood because I love James Bond. Oh yeah, Star Wars is cool, but I don't know who Admiral Akbar is. Like, that kind of stuff. That definitely happens.
Oh, can't you work on Star Wars? Akbar. Those people. Right?
Yeah. At the same time too, like your like average person, if they ended up on a Star Wars set and they see 50 aliens and 4-LOM is one of them, and that's not the most impressive to them, then it doesn't become notable. at the
Look,
same
when
time.
you work at McDonald's, you better know who Mayor McCheese is. You don't fucking deserve to work there.
Yeah. But at the same time, it can totally go that way. It could totally
Right.
100% go exactly like that, you know, where just nobody noticed that it was anybody, you know, interesting. Like 88 being the torture droid. Nobody really talked about that one. I was kind of surprised. But it makes sense. He was a Kenner figure, which made me think he'd be on the table, and but he wasn't.
Torture to Gonk droid.
Yeah, I mean, come on, famous scene.
It's my first foot fetish.
Oh no, I always hate
What?
when the smoke comes off the feet before the iron hits it. It's like, how did they let that one go? I mean, come on.
My uncle, my uncle, the radio show winner dude, he just loved watching those droids get tortured. Just like he would cackle every time in the theater. Didn't matter, just loved it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So Dale Erdman says, I thought it would have been logical to name stalactites with the T for the top, but they're on the bottom of the cave. Right? It doesn't make any sense. Stalactites and stalagmites. It's like, come on.
This feels like a cut scene from Revenge of the Nerds.
I think we just got burned hard by Robin. I just realized it. As it's true. How's it going, dude? Have you seen? Have you or Luke seen the new Lego Star Wars gameplay? Thoughts? Not long to go now. Yeah, well, we bought it, and my son keeps watching the videos. He's watching your videos, and I'm like, come on, dude, let's not watch too much, man. We're gonna be playing it, you know, and you know they're like jokes, but I have seen a little bit of it though. It looks great. Are you digging it? Because I am super excited about it to play that with my kid. It's gonna be fun.
I decided to rewatch Lego Batman the other night because I'm like, you know, I think like in my head, I'm like, I think Lego Batman might be my favorite Batman movie. I'm sorry, and no, is it probably my favorite Batman movie? It fluctuates. I think it's the funniest movie made since The First Airplane. I still got to stand to say that I've never sat in a theater with a blank screen and laughed harder than Lego Batman's first 5 seconds, you know?
Yeah, that's
and that Lego Batman laugh alone, only J.K. Simmons can that Will Arnett laugh is because J.K. Simmons has that laugh when he's J. Jonah Jameson that no one can seem to replicate, right? Right. But that Will Arnett Batman laugh is fucking cool. Like when he's watching Jerry Maguire and he goes, it's so funniest fucking thing ever. Yeah, I just wish that kind of manic humor was in the Lego stuff because I guess it's still European. Like there's like a cleverness to it, but I do wish a little bit of that manic Lego Batman humor was in some of the stuff, you know. Like I wonder if those guys. Some people were, you know, every now and then someone says, "Oh, what if they did a Marvel versus DC film?" I think Lego Marvel versus DC would have been the fucking thing to do. Like,
yeah, that's a pretty good place to have like things face off in a way that people don't take too seriously because of the cutesy medium. They dismiss it, but also embrace it at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean,
I am looking forward to this game, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm gonna have time to play it, but I will be watching a lot of Let's Plays. So
yeah. I'm glad that my son is so excited for it because it gives me the good excuse to be like, this is important. You know what I mean? It's important to him, so it gets to be important to me. So I'm happy. Ewan says, I think you said a while ago that Obi-Wan wears his Revenge of the Sith robes for the final fight or something close. Are you still confident about that? And does Vader have the robes over the armor look? So I meant basically he's wearing like his general the white like kind of gi kind of looking thing is what I meant. So yeah. Star Wars Meg says, good evening. Good evening, Star Wars Meg. Dell says, I like that. How's it going, Carlos? Jason, do you know if Anakin will have his Padawan hairdo and or facial scar in the flashback? I asked, and I was not told. I apologize. I haven't got to see that stuff myself, but I'm like, you know, these are the questions I have. Is the hair different? You know, and they're just like, so. Hopefully, I got the answers for that soon, though. Baymax, after a wee vacation, evening, Meg, I'm back in your time zone again. Welcome back to the time zone.
Yeah, but what they really mean is they stay at home playing the Wii.
Yeah.
They never unhooked it.
Oh man,
it's electro bits and fucking Wii Sports.
He's like, I find if I take a weekend off from playing Wii bowling, I could go back and play another week of Wii bowling.
Yeah.
All right. Jonathan says, George Lucas studied human anthropology. That helped a lot. Hardly no one mentions that aspect. You know, I did too, Jonathan. And I have to say, I feel like it's a little overblown. I feel like Lucas likes to drop that anthropological part, like he has some sort of hidden knowledge about people. He really just read that fucking made up ethnography.
What was this summer stock in anthropology?
Tales of Power. He just read Tales of Power.
Oh, Castaneda.
Yeah, and like really like, and it definitely informs things. But that book is complete. Like, it's fascinating. The ideas are definitely like interesting. But yeah, it was like, I think George Lucas liked anthropology, how a weed smoker in the 70s would watch National Geographics for 2 hours. I think it's somewhere like, oh, that's pretty cool, you know? And, you know, Jack Cousteau's on. They're like, yeah, man, fuck yeah, dude. Alien worlds are tight. And James Cameron's like, yeah, dude, we should do this shit. And he's like, okay. He's like, I'm going to do the National Geographic. And he's like, I'm going to do the Jack Cousteau. And they're like, cool, man. And that's how New Hollywood was formed, if you ask me. Star Wars Santa says it was like a 16-year-old boy, and his mom was standing there. She was sort of like hot, but still super weird. All right, Santa. Yeah, Santa's like, hey kid, I'm gonna go wrestle with your mom so we can figure out what you need for Christmas. Baymax says Dooku started the mod gang. Dooku was a mod before it was cool. When he got his hands cut off, he was like, his look was like, oh shit, I get to be one of them now. And then he got killed.
What album cover did that bite come from? The Who or some shit like that?
Yeah, was it Quadrophonia?
Can you just take that cover and put a young Christopher Lee in there? Like, make him a young Dooku? That's like, feels like that's waiting to happen.
Joel says, Wizard of Oz sucks. Rob is correct. Joel says, instead of having a lollipop guild, why not have an army? I love you, Joel. I love you.
And that's how Ewok were formed. That's how we did it.
Chris says, great show. Thank you, Chris. Neil says, appreciate you guys answering my questions. Hope you have a great day. Anytime, Neil. Always glad to hang out with some Star Wars butts. Star Wars Santa says, you mean Rob could have been Dave Filoni? Laugh out loud. Yeah, right. Yeah, that was your chance. So like, what if we get a guy who could draw Star Wars just to do the whole thing?
Never working at Nickelodeon. Matter of fact, my in college, my ex and a group of animators in my class went to Nickelodeon. It was a whole trip because apparently they got lost. It was a whole fucking thing. And they're like, "You gonna go?" And I'm like, "There's no fucking way I'm going to Nickelodeon. I'm not gonna fucking move up to LA." So she went up there and she ended up marrying a dude. There was a head writer at Nickelodeon who's friends with Dave Filoni, so they went to the Clone Wars premiere. So I might be able to pull that one off, but yeah. That whole moving to LA thing was like, why for the love of God? Like, you know, like I don't know.
Well, Red 5 asks us, "What's up, bro? Last to the party. You address these Forlom leaks. I'm not buying it personally, especially if the source isn't too reliable." So I will say, like, when it just, you know, it's a weird one, man, because like I don't want to, you know, I don't want to say like it's not happening or whatever, because I like to think if Star Wars Newsnet says it is, then it is. But the only thing I could say is I just don't think it's important. I don't think it has anything like big to it. But I'm gonna ask a couple sources. What the fuck? Forlom's in this shit. What is Dengar in this? Where's fucking Dengar at, bro?
Dash Rendar is in episode 5.5. Takes place in between episode 5 and episode 6. Dash Rendar.
Our Aura Singh's sister, is she in this shit? You better fucking tell me. No,
I go on a date with Forlom, and we get into a threesome with Aura Singh.
I'm gonna
and a
do
Celestian.
I'm gonna do an episode pretty soon where I will
Alright.
take everything I've said, everything I believe to be true, and I'm gonna attempt to tell you guys the whole series. I'm gonna attempt to do it. So we'll see how
That should
it
be a
goes.
members only show.
Maybe a members only show. Yeah.
I'm just letting you know, man.
Yeah.
You got to
Yeah.
pay for that one. Sorry. Folks.
but anyways, but where I'm going with this is like, I mean, Star Wars Newsnet pretty much came out and said that they had like a contractor who was showing them props or something. Like, didn't they pretty much say that in that article, and then said the next day that their source was freaking out because they said like the company owner's name. I don't know why but that's what they did. So I'm going to assume that their stuff is probably coming from the prop builder side of things. I don't know them. I'm only guessing, but so I'm going to guess that they basically like somebody was like, yeah, we made Forlom. And so they
Not
know
anymore because I fired their ass.
he's 5 Lom now. Yeah, he's got a red C-3PO arm now. He's 5 Lom.
He's
but
gonna be 3-finger discount Lom because he's not making any money since I get done with his ass.
Shocker Lom. Anyways, for Lom, more like for your mom. Said George Lucas on a phone call to Kathleen Kennedy. Ask anybody. No, we're gonna. I think we're gonna end up. I think we're gonna end up seeing him though. I mean, I don't think they would just pull that out of their ass. And they've had, and for the record, like Star Wars Newsnet's had years just to pull shit out of their ass, like for like anything, you know. And I don't think they would just start throwing it out there now. I just don't think it's. I think it's a probably going to be like a bullet point, but we'll see. I've reached out to several sources, and we'll see what they say. So, Astro True says it was a lot of fun to play. The hour. This is on about Lego Star Wars. It was a lot of fun to play. The hour I had hands on went by. Just Tatooine has so much to explore, a lot of details, side story quests, etc. Yeah, and that's where I bought that Batman game for me and my son to play because he wanted to get it, and I got to this part where it was like you think somebody dies and then they're alive, and he's just like, yeah, I know. I'm like, what do you mean you know? And he's like, yeah. It's like, I watched the videos on it like when I was 6. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, you know, he knew everything already. So he probably already knows everything about Lego Star Wars. Vigilance says, do you know things about Rebel's fate? I do. Her redemption arc or death? I don't
98
know.
degrees.
I don't know.
You're coming back.
I'm not going to talk about stories I haven't put out yet, and if I'm even going to do those stories. I don't know if I will. I right now don't know if I will, and I feel like I may though. I'm going to see. It depends on where the conversation goes. If I see there as being like a benefit to the discussions, you know. But I'm not. I like to facilitate the daily discussions about the minutia of these stories, not necessarily like clout chasing to be like, oh, everybody, I can do this, because everybody already knows I can do it. Nobody cares. So Star Wars makes sense.
Sadly, it's true.
Yeah. Wii bowling was the shit. I miss it. I miss it too, Meg. I even like the baseball sometimes. Carlos says, I think Rupert Friend is a great actor, but do you know why they didn't use Jason Isaacs? I don't. I just know that was who they cast. I mean, I'm just gonna throw it out there though.
Jason Isaacs' head didn't look like a scrotum, and we needed a scrotum. What? I think it's gonna be more. I think he may have looked even bigger. Is that fair? I mean, when I look up those men, I think Jason Isaacs may have looked like I mean, I don't mean this in a bad way, but I think it would have looked like, you know how they say Palpatine looks bloated in Revenge of the Sith. I think yes.
we may have had
people say you Rob.
Yes. No, but I think that would definitely just be what they were saying, but people would be like, well, that's the voice actor. And I mean, I don't, I'm not convinced that he would have been any better, but I also honestly, Carlos, the people who are upset, like I'm like bummed that they're upset, but I kind of don't give a shit. You know what I mean? Like, does
Rosario
it look
Dawson didn't play Ahsoka, you know, like, and had they done a series with an older Ahsoka, it wouldn't have been Rosario Dawson doing the voice. It just would have been the same actress. Like, and they got Freddie Prinze Jr. to do a 9-year-old version of himself, like in Batman.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know about all that.
Right. Star Wars makes sense. Star Wars news are definitely reliable. They got the Rancor stuff right for Book of Boba Fett. Yeah. So it's like they get like, I think they right now they get like when one thing was like built, then they might get evidence or they're told or something like that. But so far it's like in terms of like story stuff, there hasn't really been a lot there. So when they say Forlom is significant, I don't know if they even said that. So don't hold that against them. I don't know if they said that. If they did say that, then that's where you might go, because it seems to me that it's the source is a contractor on Kenobi. And I don't know anything, and I'm not outing anything. Lucasfilm would come to the same conclusion I'm coming to, I think, based off of the available evidence. Nolan Ryan says, DC, the house that Batman built, Lego Batman. I died when he said that at the top of the movie.
Yeah, so fucking funny, man. I mean, he makes fun of Iron Man. I'm like, this is where Lego Marvel versus Lego DC should have happened. Like, you get. I mean, at the end, you get a smorgasbord of shit. You get the Falcon, you get all that stuff. You know, you get Star Wars, you get Harry Potter. Like, it isn't just a cameo though. It's just that I don't know why that movie didn't resonate with people at the time, but it's fucking genius. Like, it's so good.
Yeah, my dummy brother says Star Wars or old Star Wars news that are old school and honest. Yeah, they're also like kind of competitive and kind of assholes sometimes too. Like I'm not speaking for him or on his behalf, but I mean you saw like it happened to me several times with them, which is why they're happy to try to gatekeep me. But when they Bespin Bulletin is like Mando's like basically shut down right now. They went and like ran a story going not true, and like when they ran it, it wasn't actually true anymore, but he wasn't wrong. He was right. And I'm like, why would you like do that to someone else? Like, it's just that kind of thing of like I got to prove I'm the authority in this. And in reality, it doesn't matter. You can't. Like, I have literally been an authority on this shit, and you can't prove to anybody anything at all. And people just kind of take what they want. But I thought that was a real big douchebag move, what they did to
it was a douchebag move of them.
Yeah. Darth, and maybe they didn't mean it, but sometimes we're douchebags we don't mean to be.
Sounds like someone's kissing some PR person's fucking ass when I hear that shit.
Yeah.
Well, my opinion, you know, like maybe they like the PR person. I want to get it good.
Well, the comedy of it is I think Bespin ultimately gets the last laugh on this one because they're still filming Mando right now because of those delays. Like, he is literally like that is why that is happening. And I'm talking about Star Wars news. I'm not talking about anyone specifically at Star Wars News. I'm talking about the website, the organization, you know, the collective. I'm one guy, so I get all the shit for better or worse. They get to spread it around and act like, you know, oh, it wasn't me.
To be fair, I get the most criticisms in the comments.
Yeah, that's because you don't.
I think I'm winning that by a long shot.
Well, we fell. We are YouTube failures because we don't tell people what they want to hear. We try to tell them the truth. Like everyone else.
Sometimes
like,
I don't let you finish telling them what they want to hear. I cut you off and go off on a tangent. Like, it pisses them. I know they get so mad at that. Like,
yeah, no, like if you want to be successful on YouTube, you need to be like, Making Star Wars reports that the flashback is basically only a dojo, but I heard back in December that they had Clone Wars Obi-Wan and Anakin that were sucking each other's dicks, and then everyone's like,
you need thumbnails where we're all like, right?
Like, Darth Vader, you know, like, micro penis.
You know,
I know.
Yeah, we need those stupid face. When did the algorithm start favoring that stupid shit? I remember when you first brought it up. I'm like, what are you talking about? Now it's everywhere. I'm like, fucking dicks. I know.
Kenobi, my new video is gonna be called Kenobi Pansexual, or no, Kenobi Gone Sexual.
Even some my favorite news sites, because of the way the algorithm works, they have to do it. Like they don't have a choice. You know what I mean? Like just the way those fucking algorithms favor big faces. They got to do it on news. It's like I don't think that's the kind of fucking shit you need on news, man. You know, like hey, what's going on in Ukraine? Like I don't think like that's not a good look, dude. Don't do it.
How about this one? Russia commits genocide.
That's
What are
you doing? Like, I love you, but come on, man. It's fucking YouTube, dude.
Like you see what you have to do to be successful, and
when it comes to like factual news shit, the algorithm should be turned off. Other than just protecting people from straight up propaganda. That's how I feel. You know, if you really want some kind of, if you want to be seen as a site to go to for trusted information, then you can't be playing algorithm games with fucking news. You know.
Well, I also like that. There's like I could go to Meg's channel, for instance, and look at what we were talking about with Book of Boba Fett 18 months ago, when I don't remember now. And then I look at it and I start to remember. I like that. What I do hate is because I watch Star Wars Makes videos every day, but when it starts trying to give me a video from Book of Boba Fett from 18 months ago, because what Meg does usually and what I do usually isn't something that you go back to unless it's for like archival reasons. Like I don't need to know, like I don't need to look at news stories from the Trump era at this minute, and it still pushes that shit, and usually with some
3-year-old shit too.
But then the irony is Meg is the one person that's not going like Vespas
she's the only reason I don't. That's why I watch her or listen to her show. Daily because of that. Like if she started doing that shit, I'd be like, I gotta get out of this.
Yeah,
I need someone who's like committed to their fuck. I'm glad that she's being rewarded though. The algorithm isn't throwing her on her fucking non-sharing bus.
Same. Carlos says, I agree. Rupert Friend is great casting, but Jason Isaacs seemed like the much more obvious choice given that he's already on screen actor like Katie Sackhoff. I'm guessing. I mean, there's probably a lot of reasons why it went that way, but I agreed. It does not look like the actual established character. So,
yep,
is what it is. Oh, all right, dummy. Dummy says, sorry, it's never gonna not be fun to say that to you, dummy. I'm sorry. No palps, no palps. No Padme, no Padme. I love Peak Sheev. Love Peak Sheev too. I agree, Jason has always been the top leaker, no question. Thank you. That's I think I have done pretty good work over the general gist of this. I've made some errors. I learned some things. Like the big thing that they always hold against me is in 2000, what was that? 17, when they were doing The Last Jedi, and they were filming the what are they called? The monastery keepers, like the frog people. I can't remember what they're called. The caretakers. They were filming that stuff, and they have all those people, and they're all in black costumes with axes and knives, because on the cut scene they're like pirates. The men are like pirates who go out to sea, and they return home, and then they have a giant party. Ray crashes the party in the cutscene. If you've seen it,
so fucking weird.
So
dude.
They're out there doing the rehearsals for it, but they're out there doing like the rehearsals for the scene. And so, but I get these people are sending me all kinds of videos. The videos are still on this channel. There's like tons of them. But they were seeing with their own eyes like these things, and they're like, it's the Knights of Ren, and here's what happens. And they were not being nefarious at all. They were literally seeing people in black costumes with these blades, and Rey's running with the lightsaber and all this stuff. And Adam Driver is there because they're filming scenes where he's supposed to be off screen, at the time. So these people, so that was one of the times they learned, wow, some people will really see what they want to see, and they're not being nefarious at all. They're just taking all of these disparate elements and putting it together in a model that they understand. And when they reiterate it to you, you really have to be like very careful with what that can.
That mean. Is the entire plot to My Cousin Vinny.
Right?
So like
it's the Rashomon effect. It's the Rashomon effect right there.
Yeah.
you know, and yeah, your point of view could really change exactly
What is a
how
youngling?
you. But I mean,
What is a youngling?
just like how I had a source who's like, I think Leia might heal Kenobi, and I personally am heavily betting against that and not thinking that's the the correct interpretation of the scene. I think he's killed in that thing, and I think that when you watch a bunch of Star Wars, you start to think that might be what's happening, but we'll see. Jason says Star Wars Newsnet got annoying to listen to. John comes off as an arrogant prick. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't have.
I come off like an arrogant prick. I mean,
I am an arrogant prick.
My wife. Yeah. Well, you know.
I mean, you know,
like let's be honest. If we were WWF like tag teams, we would have been like we would have been regulated to like Saturday shows, and
we would be Axe and Smash. I like to think. No, we're definitely.
No, we would have been high energy. Remember when Coco Beware teamed up with Owen Hart and they were like the craziest, loudest '90s fucking workout
what about
gear
this walk?
ever?
What about this walk though? The bushwhackers.
Bushwhackers.
We could have been bushwhackers.
I'm not licking people's heads. I got a phobia with skin.
All right, I'll lick your head. You don't have to lick mine. Sorry. Okay. Carlos asked, do we still not know if James Earl Jones will reprise Darth Vader? He was sounding older in Rogue One. You and Rob say he sounds older. Personally, I still think I'm of the opinion that old sounding Jones still sounds like Darth Vader to me. But we do not have a 100% on that yet. And
he didn't do the Vader voice in Vader Immortal. I thought Vader sounded great in there.
Who do you know who did the voice? Was it Chad Vader?
No, but it wasn't him.
Remember Chad Vader? Chad Vader was hilarious.
Remember, I could put up Chad Vader backgrounds right now. I'm locked and loaded. What are you talking about?
All right,
Chad Vader.
Chad Vader. Star Wars Meg says, especially the ones who think Kathleen Kennedy is out to get them personally. I know I think she's probably out to get me personally. I'm kidding.
I would actually say you got a good shot at that.
I don't know if it's true. It's probably not true. One time I heard I got on a dartboard at Lucasfilm.
That's so good though, man. Like,
I hope you've
made it.
I hope it's
you've made it, man. If you're on a dartboard, you know.
Carlos Gomez says, any appearances by the creepy crypt keeping looking dudes that were hanging out with Palpatine and Death Star 2 and Mustafar informing Vader of Krennic's arrival? Oh yeah. I do know that they literally, you know, like we see Darth Vader in the tank and stuff, and then we see him get put back together. So it makes me wonder if we're gonna see him, if we're gonna see those guys too. You know what I mean? But I'll have more details on that in a future story. But if you've been here for an hour 47, I love you guys, and I don't mind telling you. Nesty says, hey man, in Kenobi, do you think we will have more context to the line said by Vader in A New Hope? Last time I felt it was the presence of my old master. Yeah, I mean, I think it just makes it, this is the last time instead of it being the other time, is the way I would interpret that personally. And
he didn't have to feel Obi-Wan's presence on Mustafar. He was staring right at him, yelling, screaming.
Well, okay. I don't want to give away like a future story here, okay? Because that I have planned, because there's information like a way I want to present it. But let's just say I know for a fact Vader senses Kenobi in the story. So in this story, I think they can sense each other. So and I think, and sometimes people will ask like does he know it's him or whatever? I think they know. I think they know before they even see each other when they're around. I think that they have that connection. Their midi-chlorians have mated, you know. They have been close enough to each other that they have
attachment.
They could smell each other. Smells like burnt Kenobi in here. Darth Del Rio.
Not much difference.
And thanks for being a channel member, Darth Del Rio. I appreciate it, man. And you've been one for a very long time, so Appreciate it. Do you think Vader finds out he has a kid in the series? That could explain the line about your father wanted you to have this when you were old enough. Yeah, I don't think so. Honestly, I don't think so. I think that's just Kenobi giving him some certain point of view shit, you know. Because they never really get into that whole, oh, you're having a kid thing, you know. They never go there. And I mean, they could have written a line where Vader says something like that should have went to my kid, and basically my kid's dead because of you. Because Vader could blame other people for his actions, even though they're very firmly his fault and his actions. Sith Lords tend to not really look at things correctly, kind of little bitches too. So they could have done that, but I don't think they did. But it would be rad if they did. I kind of hope so.
Just sort of a Miss George opportunity with the prequels.
Yeah. Peter Griffin says, remember the Hollywood blondes back when Steve Austin had a blonde mullet?
Yeah,
you know,
did.
I didn't watch. I stopped before then. I stopped like right before The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. I was
this was like the blonde thing was like 94, 93 with Steve Austin. Like
that's
95-ish maybe.
Remember when you asked me when the 90s started?
Yeah.
Pretty much when the 90s really started for us.
Monday Night Raw was my jam, dog. I mean, gotta tell you, that Monday Night Raw, Beavis and Butthead, you know what I mean? Like, cause then I had to go fucking clean and water my dad made me water the lawn around 11 at night. Cause he's like, oh, the heat will dry up the water. So I had to go fucking do it at night. And take the hose out. No headphones. No, I didn't own a CD player. I didn't just do it, you know, entertaining myself. Yeah. Yeah.
You gotta do your best, man.
Yeah.
Dell says, I can see how mistakes can be made, which is why I take everything as if it may be out of context. I was never offended about the leaks for The Rise of Skywalker. I wanted to see the movie come out to make a decision. Yeah, I mean, that's how I feel too. It's like, you know, just like knowing what the parameters of the project are, help me enjoy it. When I know what they're aiming for and I know what it's supposed to be. Whereas like when you don't know everything and you have like a Book of Boba Fett, we're like, what is it supposed to be? I'm still asking myself that. I haven't got time to process it yet.
Does anyone really know what Rise of Skywalker is supposed to be?
It's supposed to be the last movie instead of a movie that just treaded water for the most part and was afraid to be bold. Dale says that's why it didn't bother me as much as it did some people. Yeah, I mean, my take on that one is when I start taking Star Wars too seriously and myself too seriously, Rise of Skywalker makes me pretty livid. But then I get perspective that Rise of Skywalker was never going to be the last movie. That is you are such a sucker if you believe that. And you have always been a sucker if you believe that. Even if it had been the perfect ending, that would have only been more of a reason to go back and figure out, is there a more perfect ending? You know, we need more of that.
No, The Force Awakens should have been the beginning of 6 films, not, you know, the beginning of the end of 6 films, you know.
And that's what I ultimately think it's going to be personally. Whether it's actually films or through a Disney Plus sort of story. But I'm also kind of like of the opinion right now that I miss like the really high quality film event sequences. Like I'm not necessarily convinced that we're going to get like a Falcon chase through the Star Destroyer graveyard on Jakku on Disney Plus. If they had made those movies on Disney Plus, like those huge sequences, so far they don't really seem to be. They seem to be like more character driven things that are cool. But I am hoping that either Disney Plus starts to give us more. Like, will Disney Plus ever give us a trench run, a Rogue One space battle?
That's where the Marvel shows have done a good job of picking like one big sequence to do for a series. Yeah. Loki had the big planet being blown up thing, you know, which built up over the course of an episode or so, right? Falcon and Winter Soldier had that big Falcon sequence in the first part. in the opening. Hawkeye had the bridge sequence. You know, like each one has had a big sequence moment versus a bunch of them like a movie would. So far, these series kind of like the biggest thing in the Mando I can imagine is the N1 starfighter flying for fun. Like it's not being thought out that way, and I don't understand it because Star Wars was built on sequence-driven screenplays. Like, find one sequence-driven moment to do an amazing thing, and it will really pop. You know, even if it's hidden in a 6-episode series. You know,
like snow speeders versus AT-ATs. Will we ever have that on Disney Plus, or is that something I could only expect in a film? It depends on how that ends up shaking out, whether I care if we get movies or not.
It's not a budget issue, if that's what you're wondering, because Marvel's already doing it. So it's not. It's just a mentality. I'm looking forward to
the episodes get budgeted though, as opposed to like the whole series. I wonder how that works, because sometimes I feel like man, this episode could have been really cheap and it's not. And then I'm like, I would rather have had this first episode or the second episode been a little cheaper and had more breath on the back end for an action oriented sequence. And we don't get it though. We haven't really got it yet.
Which is why I thought Loki did a good job of starting small, putting the big in the middle, and then ending small. Like structure-wise, I think the Loki series is really nailed it.
Well, because Waldron's a fucking genius. Like that dude is a really good writer.
Yeah. So like structure-wise, I think Loki is the best they've done, not just on TV, but even out of a lot of their films. So, but I also think we're just seeing the product of two people in charge of a lot of Star Wars, and it needs to open up. And maybe when Acolyte comes, maybe that's the one where we have all this politics and intrigue and in the shadows ninja work, and then we all of a sudden drop a couple hundred million, or not a couple hundred million, but 20 million on that one sequence all of a sudden at the end. It that could be where that happens. I hope so. I think the way to think about it is like when the Daredevil series came out, every season had that really cool hallway fight, right? And it escalated with each season. Yeah. And like they should really be thinking like that. Like you could have one AT-AT versus a snow speeder season 1, season 2, it's a skirmish, season 3, it's the big battle. You know what I mean? Like you build, you reward for those who've stuck around kind of shit, Right. Yeah. And I do think that they need to get some of these anime studios to start storyboarding sequences, man, and then converting those live, because the creativity out of Japanese animators is on another level that I think that you're not going to get out of their current group of I'm sorry folks, you're not going to get it out of Americans. It's just it's a completely, the way that they perceive kinetic action seems just to be coming from a different place than us. Vigilance says, thanks so much for these AMAs and the awesome scoops. You're making the wait for Kenobi really fun and honestly feeding the families of 90% of the Star Wars YouTubers. Do Lucasfilm execs know about your work? Yeah, they do. I don't think they appreciate all that Making Star Wars does. I'm gonna say it. I don't think we're on the same page. Yeah. Jason Ward. Yeah. I don't think I think they only like Rebels in their stories. Eric Denton says that sounds pretentious. Eric Denton says Vader found out about Luke in one of the Darth Vader comics. Boba Fett was able to find out the rebel pilot's name and told Vader. It set off Vader's turn against Sheev, and then they were even Sheevens. Jonathan says any chance Sheevens should be a series. They need to get what's his name, Mutt, who played Mutt, to be young Sheev. Call it even Sheevens. Yeah. Young Palpatine. Yeah. Any chance of seeing Vader meditating with visions of him floating over Mustafar, as in the Vader comic, the light and dark meditating figure? I pretty sure we're gonna see Darth Vader like in his chambers and stuff like that kind of stuff. So if he's meditating or not, art piece in the Disney Plus 5 fucking second thing they did there where he's sitting in his room. Right? Yeah, the throne room. Well, like I said, but we see that on Nur, what I was calling his throne on Nur, and that's just like his his castle chair. You can tell it's his chair.
Pretty sure anyway. We'll have to see if I'm right about that. I may have just gone out a little too far. Have I? Man, I need to get that confirmed. I've heard so much over the last year. There's a lot of pinballs jumping around my head with these little disparate things. Jonathan says, any chance of seeing Vader? Yeah, we already went there. Carlos says, if we're going to Mustafar, are we getting any reference to the Tross stuff like the Sith Wayfinder or the Ebb of Webbish? I don't think so. We're gonna see Vader like in his castle when he's, you know, sort of disturbed by Kenobi's antics, and then we end up like
He's playing Lego
Nur,
Star Wars.
and we
Son
end
of
up
a
on the moon.
bitch!
Yeah, we end up.
I've waited 5 years for this game, Kenobi bastard.
I'm not expecting there to be like a ton of Mustafar itself, like of them on Mustafar again, like walking around. I don't think that's how this is going. So I would not expect any of that Webbish bog stuff or anything like that, unfortunately. Justin says,
don't expect this series to make sense at a Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, well, Justin Westwood said, I feel like, thank you for being a channel member, Justin. I feel like there is such an interesting documentary book on the making of the sequel trilogy to be made. Do you think Lucasfilm will ever allow that kind of transparency as time goes on? I don't. I've considered maybe doing something like that, you know, some kind of I don't know what the parameters of it would be, but like the unauthorized kind of like side of things, and knowing what I know from sources who worked on it and stuff like that, and going that way. But at the same time, you could kind of get that. But you know, here's the thing, like without getting into specifics of anything in particular, there was one production where I heard the director was the hugest piece of shit and everybody hated that director. They thought that director was the worst. And then I talked to about 4 people who all kind of like said, oh yeah. And then but I talked to a bunch of other people, and then they think that director was the best in the West. Never had a problem. Everything's great. And so you could really like use that to make whatever narrative you want. And I don't know how I would make sense of that. You know what I mean? I don't know how I would do that personally, because I would try to be like very honest about like what was happening with those movies and stuff. But also, like, you know, there's like stuff that's both funny and like sad about like Carrie that would be interesting to like talk about someday. But also like at the same time, like I don't know if there's like what the value in that, you know, does that really give anything? I don't know. Red 5 says, agreed. I missed the films. I missed the spectacle, the hype. Also, the shows seem a bit small. How did we see Mando or Boba in a desert already? There hasn't been much space action. Yeah. That's I'm with you, man. And I think the Kenobi series is a pretty good like scope to it for one of these series. I think this one to me, it feels very right. So that's pretty much all I could say. Is when I'm hearing the general gist of it, it always feels right. But we've already hit 2 hours. Carlos says you might have gone too far in a few places. Yeah, George Lucas. But anyways, thanks to everybody for being a channel member, for supporting the show and all that kind of stuff. And we'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. talking about Star Wars Pacific Standard Time and doing what we do. And you can become a channel member. You can become a Patreon supporter. And if you're a Patreon supporter, you get audio versions and what?
And if you like my stuff, you go to shopsketchcraft.com, buy a print or 2. I got some stuff up in there today. More coming. Yeah. I don't make a lot of money, but that's how you support my Patreon without a Patreon. I don't do Patreons.
He doesn't do Patreon.
All my money goes to his Patreon or his.
I think everyone. You should send me the link to that too, so I could post it in the video one of these times, because I think people should.
You're putting Star Wars art in there. I gotta get that back up too. So I'm getting everything back up. We just had the COVID wrecked my printers. The situation I had worked out, so I've had to figure out how to do all that. So
right, yeah. But I definitely would watch your art if it was on like basic TV channels. Like I don't have cable, so if it was on basic TV.
I just saw what was on CBS.
On CBS.
Sorry. I use any excuse to play that one. Yeah, I know. But thanks for hanging out with us, everyone. Thanks for hanging out with me, Rob. I appreciate that, dude.
Anytime.
And I'll see you tomorrow, and I'll see all these crazy kids tomorrow. And I hope Mark Hamilton had a good time on his vacation. That's all I'm going to say about that. I hope you had a good time, Mark, because I wasn't on vacation, Mark. So, anyways.
I don't get a vacation. I got kids.
I don't get a vacation.
All my friends ever have kids. They always tell me how I got kids. I can't do anything. And then they're like, "You don't know what fulfilling kids are, Rob." Okay. All right. I get sound sleep every night.
Yeah.
I know that much.
It's completely even Stevens. It's even Shevens on that one. Both
Even
are
Shevens.
true. There's a lot you can't do, and there's a lot you get out of it. It makes up for it, unless you really are doing rad shit. You hate your kids, then of course then it doesn't. But yeah, nobody. But we have enough kids. People don't need to have any more. Don't let anybody ever tell you need to have them if you don't need them, because you don't. It's a trick. But I do see every day. I take my kids to school. I really love my kids. My kids are pretty rad, and I go there and I see the other kids that aren't rad, and their parents don't really love them that much. And it's a huge fucking bummer. It's a huge bummer. It really is. You see it. You're just like, man, they don't like each other. You know, they're not going to like each other.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is how a Star Wars starts, guys. This is how a Star Wars starts. All right.
Tell my
bye,
mom
everybody.
felt it on me.
Mine too. Fuck them. Now we dance. We dance without our mothers.
Not about spaceships.